This project originally started as a jig to try and test Bert Bergers Venturi board concept from the 1990s. I've been in contact with Bert and he's kindly sent me some pictures of his Venturi board designs. You can also see a few different versions on the internet of people trying similar ideas. According to Bert, it makes a board dramatically faster at the expense of fin stability. So when I found a Gopher mobility scooter with two perfectly good geared motors on the side of the road someone had chucked out, it seemed like an ideal test mech. I strapped a bit of scrap aluminium to it, and the idea is it would spin something around the pool. By applying a constant current from a constant current power supply, this applies a constant torque to the motor, which in turn applies a constant force. And this is just demonstrating various currents, which is the middle number on the black box, pushing against the kitchen scales. It's a pretty dodgy way of measuring. It's not very accurate because I can change the number by slight movements, but you can see it's maybe 500 grams maximum. It's not big forces involved here, and that the constant current applies a constant force. So here I'm testing the no load characteristics to make sure I got enough speed, because the objective of all this is to go faster, work out ways of going faster. I originally started with the kids' manky old boogie board, and this was maximum power from my power supply, so nowhere near fast enough to test Venturis. I cut the board down and tried different positions driving the board, but they're all pretty limited in speed. So I settled on a tow system, which seemed to give much higher speeds. The downside of this was the back of the board would spin out pretty quickly. So I 3D printed a little fin and glued it in the back of the board, and this helped a lot. And this is when things got interesting. I noticed all sorts of different fin effects. So I put a GoPro on the back to try and record them. This was a not very practical idea because the weight of the GoPro made the board tilt and flip over, and the fin would spin out very quickly. I certainly couldn't get any very good speeds. So I removed the GoPro and just settled on recording it from external cameras. Now, interestingly, what's going on here is the centrifugal force is pushing against the fin, and you can keep increasing the current up to a certain point as measured on the power and the current, and the fin will stay tracking well. Then just a tiny bit above that, the fin will spin out. My maximum best attempt only once was getting to 38 watts, or 2.3 seconds per lap, or 3.8 meters per second, but was normally about 34 watts and about 2.5 seconds a lap. Once the fin spun out, or cavitating, it'll keep cavitating ad infinitum, and you can apply as much force as you want and increase it to the maximum, and it'll never stop cavitating. Any windsurfer or surfer knows the only way to recover from a spin out is to slow right down or change direction. In this case I had to drop the power down to about 5 watts before the fin would stop cavitating, and then I could go off again. This seemed to be repeatable over and over. Pretty much 34 watts was the average power I could get to before the fin would spin out. Fangman's been experimenting with bulbed fins, and he claims that it makes a mediocre fin handle better. So almost as a joke, I 3D printed a little bulb, super glued it on, and spun it around, and to my surprise the fin seemed to hold better, seemed to go faster, and this made the board and fin track not above the underwater camera. I stopped and moved the jig so the board would track over the camera. This appeared to be, or turned out to be, a pointless exercise because the GoPro battery decided to die with this exact moment. But to my surprise, I could go 15% faster on average, with a corresponding 15% increase in power at all times before the fin would spin out. This equated to about 2 seconds a lap, or 4.4 meters per second. And at the higher speed there was more ripples bouncing off the side of the pool, so in effect the fin was handling more chop as well as more force. So this seemed to validate Fangman's real-world practical experience with a bulb fin, which was really interesting. The power would drop off by exactly the same 11% when the fin did spin out, but it was reproducible pretty much over and over. Since the camera had gone flat, I decided to charge it up and test the next day. The next day I made the mistake of sanding the fin and the bulb smooth to get rid of super glue blobs and 3D print defects. And again, to my surprise, instead of seeing no difference or mild improvement, I got a dramatic decrease in performance, as in about 30% decrease in maximum speed before the fin spun out, and a corresponding power, so about 30 to 31 knots on average before the fin would spin out. So it wasn't what I was expecting, but that's what I got. So the next step for this means I have to make an interchangeable fin system so I can quickly change different fin designs out without changing any other variable in the jig. This is because I wasn't really sure of the length of the string I used the day before, so I experimented with different lengths of string. It didn't seem to change the result much unless I made the string really long, where I got modest improvement, but nowhere near as good as the previous day. Maybe 38 watts, I think was the maximum I could get to. So, in addition to interchangeable fin, I might try different mast track toe positions, putting weights on the edge of the fin, etc. Anyway, if you like this kind of rubbish, please subscribe. It really helps. I'm trying to get 1,000 subscribers. Thank you.